The New York Jets are off to a historically bad 0-7 start. But despite everything, there may actually be some good news. I'm going to tell you all about it, so let's get fired up. Thank you for joining me. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel while you're here. Man, I had a good show planned for tonight, and then our owner decided to open his mouth. And I can't say that Woody Johnson is wrong. I actually agree with some of what he said. Just that, man, you can't go the public eye in front of the cameras and say that. It makes the coach's job harder. How is Justin Fields going to feel? What if we start Tyrod and then down the road, which is likely to happen, he gets hurt and Fields has to go back in? This kid's confidence is already at an all-time low. This just makes the coach's job harder, not to mention the fact that we're stuck with Fields for another year because we already paid him. To cut him would cost $22 million. So it's just bad. It's just bad. My question is, why the hell do any of us even know what Woody Johnson looks like? I mean, aside from Jerry Jones, I can't think of what any other NFL owners look like. You don't see the Maras or the Rooneys or, the Texans owner or the Vikings owner or any owner getting up in front of the shit that he says. It's kind of like that's overrated. Like Woody should not talk to the cameras at all. Period. He should keep his mouth shut and as an owner be invisible. Let the football people you hired to run the organization and keep your mouth shut. He's frustrated. I get it. I'm frustrated. You, as an owner, you just can't do that. Now, I get a base in fact, and I'm going to give you some facts, some good and some bad. I'm going to start with the bad, and that means Justin Fields. Justin Fields, we aren't seeing the same Justin Fields you saw in Pittsburgh or in Chicago. If Justin Fields was playing like he did in Pittsburgh, or like he's as we are right now, his confidence, he just seemed crushed. And you know, after losing Garrett, somehow we would be okay. Like the Bills don't have a number one receiver, so everybody eats. That philosophy that everybody eats, dude, not with this quarterback. At Cafe New York Jets, nobody eats. Because when Chef Fields is in the kitchen cooking, the food never makes it out to the dining room. The food never leaves the kitchen. Dude, in that Denver game, it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. He would just sit back there and sit back there. And it really was like a deer in headlights. It's like he completely froze. A big problem. The Fields issue, it's not only a problem at quarterback, it extends to everybody on the offensive side of the ball. it makes it possible to evaluate the offensive line because they're not getting the ball. You can't even evaluate the linemen because no offensive line is going to be able to protect for 5 or 6 seconds while this idiot holds the ball. Like, there was a play that they showed, over and over again. I saw the clip, posted by numerous people on Twitter or X or whatever, of Membu, his very animated reaction. And I think it was like the 7th or 8th sack of the game or something. And he's literally like visibly just like throwing up his arms in frustration. Held the ball longer than 5 seconds. There was one in particular, he held the ball 5.5 seconds. And I was not surprised the pass rush got there. I was surprised it didn't get there sooner because watching it live, I mean, it just seemed like he was back there for an eternity. Like when you watch him back there, it's like, it feels like he's back there for a lifetime. Like, I've never seen anything like it where a quarterback drops back and then just stands there. Anybody who watched these last 2 games, any New Yorker would tell you the Statue of Liberty had better moves than Justin Fields in these last 2 games. It was pathetic. And, I'm not killing this coaching staff for not having a number 2 wide receiver. Yes, there are problems with the receiver depth, but we knew at the beginning of this, when we first signed Justin Fields, everybody said, every content creator, everybody said, Fields is a one-read quarterback. If that first read isn't there, he's going to take off. So now all of a sudden we're getting mad because he isn't finding a 3rd or 4th option that might have been wide open, when we knew that he was never going to get that far in his progression anyway, because that's not who he is. So taking that into consideration, but the thing is like, he's not even throwing to his one read when it's there and it's open. Like, he just wasn't throwing the ball at all. And I don't know if it was the turnovers and he's so afraid to turn the ball over that he's just completely freezing up. And I get it. Listen, this coaching staff, I think they knew from the beginning that it was a dice roll with him. They decided to move on from Rodgers, which was the right move, because I'll tell you what, we would have started 0-3 with Rodgers and he would have been on McAfee, ripping this team, ripping Glenn, and it would have undermined everything that Glenn is trying to do. Likewise, if we brought in a veteran who was experienced but was a head case and a bad locker room guy, a la Carson Wentz, because I've heard that floated, it would have been the same result. There were not great options out there. The options other than Aaron Rodgers all pretty much sucked. And Fields was, I guess, the one with the most potential to maybe be okay. And this is the thing, Fields did okay in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh had an established defense that had been playing together, not a defense that was learning a brand new scheme. We have to keep in mind our guys were learning a brand new scheme. And the first 4 games of the year, the defense lost those games for them. Now, Fields was not great. His first game was okay, and that was his best statistical game ever. The next game was his statistical worst at that time. So it was really hard to judge. And then he got hurt. Then he came back from the injury. Now we hear that supposedly in that first game back versus Miami, he hurt his legs and his legs haven't been right. Well, Justin Fields is not a pocket passer quarterback. It never has been, never will be. We all knew that. So if his legs were truly hurt and he knew it, either the coaching staff knew it and played him anyway and thought they could maybe scheme their way. As if Justin Fields has a good attribute, it's his ability to run. And without that, there really isn't much of anything that he does particularly well. He shouldn't have played. If he knew it, but the coaching staff didn't, He should have said something. Now, everybody wants to kill Aaron Glenn because Fields was his guy. He backed him. I honestly believe when they talked and when the deal was getting worked out, the things that Glenn had to say about we're going to give him an opportunity to play quarterback. I don't think he's really had that in Pittsburgh or Chicago. I think that's what Fields told him. I think that Fields sold him on the idea that I go in a bad situation. And then last year, I had a guy breathing down my neck, and I knew the job wasn't really mine. The payday that they gave him, I think, was to help bolster his confidence. I think as a coaching staff, they did everything they could to try to help this kid, putting the GoPro on his fucking helmet so that they can see what he's saying. But here's the problem with that. And listen, I thought it was a great idea at the time, but now in hindsight, as I'm thinking about it, you can get the recording on the GoPro. He can go back and watch it later, tell you what he was seeing. But the problem is when he's telling you what he's seeing from the defense, what he's seeing from the receivers, he's telling you that where he is sitting down and watching tape and he has time to think about what he's saying and what he's seeing. In live game action, it's not the problem isn't what he's seeing, it's what he's thinking or not thinking. The problem is, he drops back, he looks, he knows what he sees, but he just can't be decisive with where he wants to put the ball. Like it's his processing. His processing speed is slower than my Wi-Fi. Okay, it's almost non-existent. All right, and earlier in the year, Breece Hall had a comment, and he said, we shoot ourselves in the foot, then we come back and we shoot ourselves in the head. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to come up with like a good one-liner or anything like that. In all seriousness, after I watched Justin Fields' last press conference, I'm worried that guy is going to shoot himself in the head. Like, first of all, Justin Fields' everybody wants to rip Glenn about his pressers. Justin Fields' pressers have been more alarming to me. This guy, man, at first, when I heard Glenn talk about him, I'm thinking, okay, maybe that cool, laid back demeanor will help. Maybe in high pressure situations, he'll be able to remain calm and keep the guys around him calm and focused. But no, it's like way beyond that. Like I watched this, and there's times where I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, he looks more stoned than me on my day off. Like, I mean, he is so lethargic that he almost looks like he's sedated. And I started really thinking, like, that lack of energy, that lack of intensity, that lack of enthusiasm. Like, how is this guy supposed to rally his teammates and get them fired up? Like he looks like he doesn't look like he's ready for an NFL game. He looks like he's ready for a nap. And it's really, that part bothers me. But this last press conference after he got benched, and they asked him about being benched, like, hey, how do you feel about losing your job? And he says, I just want to take this time and use this platform to talk about God and how great he is. And no disrespect to anyone who's religious. I'm not saying anything. It's not about that. It's about Justin Fields' mental state. Like, he went on to this strange, rambling answer all about God and God's plan for him. And dude, like I'm telling you right now, in all seriousness, all joking aside, if I was Justin Fields' family member right now, I would be seriously worried about him. Like again, all joking aside, like that press conference to me was like scary. Like he might have said, "Oh, I'll be all good. You know, God has a plan for me." Dude, that looks like a guy that is at the end of his rope. Period. And I don't want to keep going on and on about Fields. Like, listen, this is the thing. Fields was always a dice roll, and people want to kill Aaron Glenn because he came out and said, you know, I have the utmost confidence in Justin. You know, we're here to win games. We're going to win now. I believe in this player. I think he can be really good for us. Dude, his job isn't to coach the fan base and make us feel better. His job is to coach the players. Do you really think that Aaron Glenn was going to get up there in his first press conferences and say, well, at quarterback, it's kind of a crapshoot. This guy really isn't it. Like mentally, he just can't get it. And he has enough physical attributes that we're hoping we can coach him up and kind of scheme around his deficiencies. And we think that we can get him play good enough that we can win some games. But in no way is he our long term answer. Like he was never gonna fucking say that. Like, and I get it. You know, he tried to put the utmost confidence in that kid. He tried to build that kid up. They tried to coach him up. And at the end of the day, I think Fields is just unhelpable. Okay. And it sucks, but they're completely different players with completely different problems in some regards. But at the end of the day, Justin Fields is a lot like Zach Wilson. Some really good physical tools, but mentally, he is just not there. He is just not there. Mentally, he is not an NFL quarterback. The way he's played lately, he doesn't even look like a backup. This has been some of the worst quarterback in my entire life as a football fan. That is some of the worst quarterback play I have ever seen. I don't even know if he fucking stood there. He did got smoked. Plain and simple. Period. Okay. Now, enough about Fields. I'm going to move on from that. I said I did have some positives to talk about. Well, let me get to those because I've said all there needs to be said about Fields. He is not the guy. He was never going to be the guy. He was, in my opinion, never going to be more than a bridge quarterback. I always thought we were taking our real quarterback next year. Um, I did not expect things to look as bad as they have this season. I will admit that. However, I'm not going to kill Glenn about everything. Okay. Uh, we had a somewhat underwhelming free agency in an underwhelming free agent class. As the year began and there were still deficiencies on this team, Glenn and Muji added Phillips and Briggs, who have been a positive addition. They added Jarvis Brownlee, who has been really damn good. He's been really good. He has made an immediate impact, and he has the fire and the intensity that we need. Him and the return of Jermaine Johnson was huge because now we actually have a pass rush too. Um, Getting into some other positives, uh, the penalties have improved slightly. Okay. I am not too big to admit when I'm wrong. And I never understood why people would say that J.C. Horn was one of the better corners in the league. I never got it until this week. Let me tell you what, that first interception that Horn had, like considering the fact that he already had to get that deep down the field, for him to be moving sideline to sideline at that speed was incredible. Like when I first started watching that play, Horn wasn't even on the screen. He came from out of nowhere, like shot out of a cannon, and just came streaking across he covered over half of the end zone. He just came flying from out of nowhere and snatched that ball out of the air. And I guess I just haven't watched enough Carolina Panthers games to know how good that guy was. Now, that being said, but the point is, I can live with an interception like that, like because we're trying. This is something else that I wanted to bring up. One of the websites this week put up a tweet complaining that most of the Jets' touchdowns this year have come in the fourth quarter in garbage time. And I'm going to pull up basically the exact tweet for you. Okay. They did have the Buffalo game too, mentioning Ruckert's, which Ruckert's really was a garbage time one. Okay. But GW and Lazard in the fourth quarter in Tampa, GW in the fourth quarter in Miami. This is the problem. People are in such a hurry to bag on the Jets that they're not giving you the real facts. Here's what that tweet should have said. GW and Lazard in the fourth quarter in Tampa got us within 2 points. That was a 2-point game. It is not garbage time if it's a 2-point game. In the Tampa game, I was there. We were leading with a minute and a half left. Okay, the fact that the Jets defense played like shit and let the Bucs march all the way down the field with a minute and a half left to score and lose us this game, that doesn't mean it's garbage time. And I get it. Right now, watching the Jets, every minute feels like garbage time. But I'm not twisting the facts to fit a narrative. Okay? A 2-point game isn't garbage time. In Miami, that was a 6-point game. That was still a one-score game. That is not time. When you're in one game, which both Tampa and Miami were, that is not time. Okay, and I got one last graphic to pull up here for you. That's another thing that I wanted to say about Aaron Glenn, because everybody is constantly comparing the Jets situation to the situation in Detroit. And I apologize, guys, for not really keeping up with the comments as well tonight. Trying to cover a lot. But at any rate, this is the thing. The difference between Aaron Glenn and Detroit and Aaron Glenn here. Uh, Aaron Glenn in Detroit, he got the most out of his players. He had backup guys and he got them to perform like starters. But this is the thing. They were his backups. They were already in his system. They already knew his book. Our guys do not. They are not his guys. They did not know his system. They did not know the playbook. These guys were learning a brand new system. And I think everyone was going to take time. Nobody thought it would look as bad as it did, but the penalties have decreased slightly. The return game has been better slightly. Nguanu can never seem to stay healthy, and he's out again now. But the thing that I agree with, like the penalties have gotten better. I can give Tyrod a pass on the interceptions. They've gotten better. The defense teams have gotten better. I agree with that part of what Woody said. Now, let's talk about the guys that Glenn has brought in. Okay. When Quincy first got hurt, I heard other content creators say Kiko is not an NFL player. It's obvious. He looks lost out there. He doesn't know what he's doing. Well, lo and behold, he looks pretty good now. Aaron Glenn coached him up from looking like that to low. We all killed Aaron Glenn for the Brandon Stevens signing, and rightfully so. This year started off, he was terrible. Even blew it on Jake Shitted. The last 4 games, Stevens much better. And let me tell you what, that play that Stevens made, the pass breakup in the end zone on this past week, that's a great play. Okay, that was probably the single best play of Stevens' entire season. The thing I like the most about that, rewatching, Stevens starts to get his head around. He doesn't quite get it around, but he's. That was all. Now, if I'm being 100 honest, which I always am, he was a little bit slow and a little bit late. But the point is, he was at least trying to get his head around. You actually saw him turning it, which is a good step for him. So Aaron Glenn coached him from how he was at the beginning of the year to how he is now. That's coaching. Like, I want to blame every coach. Has been perfect. Has he mismanaged some time situation? Yes. Has he mismanaged some time? Yes. You know what? Campbell did the same thing. A lot of those kind of bumps. But I think everybody has gotten really carried away. And listen, Glenn didn't do himself any favors being as abrasive as he was in the beginning. But it wasn't, I don't think it was really that abrasive. It's just like he was, no, he doesn't put up with any, and this is how it's going to be. And I respect him for that. But you got to be careful when you put out such a strong message, because if the results aren't there to match the message, then you wrong. If I'm looking at all honesty, like you saw how to be, you can ask again. I'm going to give you the same answer. And like he wasn't playing, but started to talk, and the reporter was like, well, yeah, we could kind of, some reporter and Glenn both kind of laughed, and Glenn was like, yeah, you can. And it's like, look at, he's already got these media people trained, and they're starting to learn, like, if you got a legitimate question, I'll answer it. But if you're going to try to stir up something negative just for the story, just for the clicks, I'm not playing into that. Those guys have done that for years. They've done it to coach after coach. and Glenn's not playing that, and I don't mind that. Now, that being said, when they asked him about benching Fields, and he kind of laughed it off like it was a joke. I get it because he can't like listen, the kid sucks right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. Like he can't say that. Like as a coach, it's his job. Like he still has to act like he has some amount of confidence in the kid. But at the same time, like I don't think wrong or poorly worded. But listen, this is the thing. We're telling Glenn about his press conferences. And you know what? I listen to some content creators, and I'm like, they never Glenn hiring from the beginning. This bitching they're doing is just an extension of the we didn't Vrabel wanted to pouting that they were doing at the beginning of the year. And I'm trying not to look at it like that, man. I'm trying to look at it, you know, honestly through an honest lens. And of all people, I get it because, as you know, I am a Florida State fan. A year ago at this time, we did the thing. We decided not to pay Cam Ward. We paid the wrong kid the NIL money, and we got the wrong quarterback. And because of it, he was the worst quarterback I think I've ever seen in college football. And we won one fucking game. And we were a laughing stock. We got rid of him. This year they got a real quarterback. They started off winning 3 in a row. Sometimes you just pick the wrong guy. And unfortunately for us, that's what happened. We picked the wrong guy. And Frid's never going to be more than opinion. I think a lot of us knew that going in. I think Aaron Glenn knew that going in. Uh, I think they just thought that they could up and maybe get him to be competent. You know, if the defense plays well, special teams plays well, maybe we can put him in a scheme to minimize his deficiencies and maximize his attributes, and maybe we can win some games. But that hasn't happened. Like, you know, and credit to Glenn, he's coached a lot of players and he's gotten backups to play like starters. He's taken average starters and turned Kirby Joseph into one of the best safeties in football. That being said, he said, look at Tony Adams. He looks like he has some tools that maybe I can coach up. He got here. He realized that, damn, this guy, that Tony Adams could not be coached up. He benched him. He's playing Malachi Moore, who hasn't been outstanding, but he has been a modest upgrade over Adams. We went into this year, we still had a few deficiencies on the team. Glenn and Muji, they brought in Phillips and Briggs, who have made a positive impact. They brought in Brownlee, who has been a stud. They have done things to improve this team. People say, oh, would you trust Aaron Glenn with the first pick of the draft? Armand Membu was the first pick of the draft last year for Glenn and Muji. He's a fucking stud. Mason Taylor, when somebody actually throws him the ball, is a very good tight end. 5 for 65 in Miami, several first downs, looked like he was really making an impact. And since then, Fields has done nothing but regress. And again, it makes it impossible to evaluate everybody. Like no offensive line can protect for 5 or 6 seconds. But that being said, Olu, who was a solid pick, has struggled at times this year. Membu has probably been our best offensive lineman, and he was a Glenn pick. A.Z. Thomas has looked very good. He did give up the one big catch this past week, but there was also a push off that didn't get called. Garrett gets called for it, but Mike Evans, George Pickens, you name it, can push off against us, and it doesn't get called. You know what? That sucks, but that's also a fact. Until we start winning games and we put some respect on our name, these refs aren't going to put any respect on our name. It's good to see you, Valerie. Good to see you, Kim. Thank you. Both of you guys are in my end of the month raffle for one of our new shirts for the women that I have in the merch store. So, all the women that come to the show, I put everybody's. And so at the end of the month, we'll be doing a drawing for that. And just want to say I appreciate you guys. David, too. Everybody that's here, I appreciate all of you so much coming in to watch me. Listen, I have confidence in Glenn. And this is the other thing is, since when do we expect fourth and fifth round picks to be impacts? We didn't do that with Saleh. We haven't done that with Gase or anybody else. But now Aaron is here, and every draft pick needs to hit. I'll do find players later in the draft. Kiko, off rough, but he looks decent. He may end up being a serviceable player for us. Mason Taylor looks good. Azaria Thomas has looked good in limited snaps. We'll get to see more of him going forward, especially now with Sauce hurt. But like I said, Membu, Taylor, Azaria Thomas have all looked good. Arian Smith, it's impossible to know what we have with a quarterback that doesn't throw the ball. With Tyrod, a little bit honest assessment of him and what his potential is. Right now, he's a complete unknown. If there was a draft pick of Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji that I would label as a bust right now, it would be Tyler Barron. But dude, we're talking about a late fifth round pick. Most of the time, those don't even make the team. So I'm not going to kill them. First draft actually went well. Free agency wasn't great, but the agents weren't great. They bitching about a number 2 wide receiver. Fucking fat and out of shape and retired right off the bat on the team that bothered to sign him. And we weren't signing a Josh Palmer or a Tyler Boyd that was going to our season. The honest truth is, it doesn't matter who our number 2, 3, 4 wide receiver is, because we had a quarterback that wasn't throwing the ball to any of them. I don't know if all the losing got to him. You know, all over got to him. I don't know if the New York has gotten to him, but something's broken in Justin Fields right now. And like I said, everybody wants to talk about Glenn's pressers. It was Fields' last presser that worried me the most. Like, I'll say it again. It was alarming. Like, I'm seriously worried for that guy's mental health, like as a person, as a human being, not as a football player. Okay. As a football player, he can continue to suck and he's still making millions of dollars. He'll live a life that most of us could never dream of. But sometimes money can't buy you happiness. Like I read about his really bizarre press conference, every 6 minutes about and God, and it was strange. And he looked about as beaten down as a person could possibly look. It was right of Aaron Glenn to move on for him. And, too bad, because Justin Fields actually seems like a really nice kid. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. And when guys are real good guys like that, like a Chad Pennington or Curtis Martin, You want to root for guys like that, but ineptitude on the football field is just staggering, man. Again, it's probably the worst quarterback play ever seen. Mainly play. Look at that. Fields is driving me to smoke. I don't drink, but I do smoke, and making me smoke while I'm on a show. Yeah, I think that says it. But there's a lot of reasons to have hope. Like I said, Kiko went from looking like he didn't even belong on an NFL field to being a pretty good player. Brandon Stevens went from couldn't stop anything to he's actually been pretty damn good the last couple of weeks. Aaron those up. Guys that turn out not to be guys, Tony benched, replaced. We got, from right, who's doing okay. That Quinnen and Briggs split a sack this week. Phillips and Briggs have both made a positive impact. Brownlee's made a huge impact. That guy is fiery. He is to me like an Aaron Glenn type guy. And listen, Glenn and Moody had a solid draft. Muji has made some very good trades to improve the team. I think that right now people are in just such a rush to say that's and be negative because the start is so fucking bad that they can't see that has there have been some positive things. Earlier on, Jake Asman said a positive thing that's the Jets right now. Well, with the exception of the 2 Tyrod Taylor interceptions, which again I said on the at least he was the turnovers, the penalties and yards have has gotten better. The defense is much better. The defense went from giving up 3 points in every game to giving up 13 in back-to-back weeks. Glenn is a defense better. You can Glenn, like I said, to giving up 13 a game. That's massive improvement. When you're allowing 20 less or 17 yards a game less every game, that's improvement. Anytime you say my defense only 13 points, you would assume that your game. Again, that just speaks to how bad Justin Fields is. And if I can fault Glenn for anything, it's for not pulling Fields sooner. That disaster in Denver where he took 9 sacks, held the ball for over 5 seconds on a couple of them. Unforgivable for an NFL quarterback to play like or not play like that. After number 5, probably definitely after sack number 6. That's all there is to it. He's not getting a lot. I get it that you don't want to wreck the kid's confidence, but it was very clear that his confidence was already wrecked. So, at any rate, guys, and I just said, but at any rate, those are the positives. Like I said, Justin Fields is by far our biggest problem. Unfortunately, we're stuck with him. I think Glenn and them took the right approach with him. Unfortunately, Sometimes you try and they work, sometimes they don't. This obviously did not work. And it's everything. Okay, but I think the plan was always build the foundation now, get everything else and solid. It's been together for a full year and gotten experience and is starting to gel. Then we'll bring in our quarterback, really our quarterback that we pick. And until then, we were going to roll the dice with Justin Fields and hope that we could get acceptable results. And that is not what happened. We took a chance on guy, and now we're. And unfortunately, it's a lost season. There's no other way to say it. And you guys know me, I'm always positive, or at least I try to be. I'm not delusional. I'm not unrealistic, but I'm not afraid to say when there are actually positives going on with this team. I'm not in such a hurry to condemn everything that they do that I'm going to ignore some positives go, which there are. Like I said, there have been clock miss. Every first-time head coach goes through that with clock management and timeout issues. Like that'll get better. I'm not worried about that. None of that was so atrocious that it truly cost games. The penalties and turnovers cost us games. The defense sucking cost us games, and Fields sucking cost us games. It just sucks that at the beginning of the year, the offense was okay, I guess, kind of, almost. And the defense was so terrible, blown up by everybody. We should have won those games. The last two games, the defense played frigging great. Held both opponents to 13 points, and the offense was so terrible. 2 weeks without an offensive touch. One of these days, we're going to get all phases to play at the same time on the same day, and we're actually going to win a fucking game. I got news for you. It ain't happening on Sunday. It's not happening while Garrett Wilson is out. That's the truth. This, as a Jets fan, this is my worst nightmare. Garrett Wilson getting hurt when what we have behind him looks the way it does right now. That being said, I will guarantee you, right, and there's a reason that Woody gave Aaron Glenn a 5-year contract. Okay. What does he sees Aaron every day, hugs every day? He has an Aaron Glenn, and I had the conversation before Glenn was ever hired, and Glenn said, listen, the first year might get really ugly, but you have to go through it in order to build something the right way. And I think that understanding was in place. Now, I don't, Glenn or Woody included, expected it to look as bad as it does, which is why I think Woody got frustrated minutes he did, which I completely agree with. However, I don't agree with him saying them to the general public. He's just saying what we're all thinking. However, I really do think Glenn is the right guy moving forward. I think they're building the foundation now, their quarterback, and for this receiving group. I would bet you money right now that the first quarterback and the second pick will be receiver. I would bet and it will be Glenn making the pick. Glenn, and for all those people that said, oh, Glenn had to call other people to ask what to do. Listen, anybody in that position, any coach is going to talk to other coaches. They're going to talk to their peers. They're going to talk to their friends and have somebody to be a sounding board. Okay. I don't think it's a bad thing that Aaron Glenn called Bill Parcells, one of the better coaches in NFL history, to ask his advice on the coaching situation. Like somehow that has turned into a bad thing. So people are in such a rush to jump on Glenn that suddenly now him talking to Bill Parcells And even if he was, what's wrong with asking a great football mind advice? Our last coach was texting Joe fucking Beningo. Are you serious? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I would rather have my head coach calling Joe Beningo. Nothing against Joe. I don't know him, never met him. I don't listen to him. I don't watch him when he's on Jake's show. All that same old Jets shit. Okay. When you name your podcast Oh the Pain and you made a name for yourself about bitching about the Jets down, like, dude, like, how are we ever going to change the outlook and mentality around this team if everybody acts like that? So I always try to find I don't want to listen to that nonsense. I want to talk positive about my team. I still remember the years when the Jets were good, when we were in the playoff here every year, when we competed every year, when we were a threat every year. Uh, uh, that whole era, what I like to call Martin and when I like for real, we were a good team for a decade straight. And since then, with the exception of the 2 first years with Rex, we've been a bad team pretty much ever since. But listen, we can't put the whole 14 years on Glenn. We can't put people to say, well, the Jets can never develop a quarterback. Glenn and Muji have never developed a quarterback for the Jets. You can't blame them for what other coaching staffs did wrong. That is a bad argument. Just like people trying to say that everything that's wrong with the coach, with the team now is coaching. It's not. There are plenty of things that I just highly going to fault Glenn for trying to put confidence in Fields, to try to build his confidence, to try to get more out of him. Like I said, his job is to coach the players, not to coach us fans and to say what makes us happy. I think he was doing the right thing in trying to nurture Fields. Unfortunately, mentally, Fields is just not there, will never be there. And Glenn had to figure that way. He has enough physical attributes. It was worth rolling the dice. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. I almost feel bad for Justin Fields. I am worried, but I'm also worried about the mental state of this fan base. Bad for us. I feel bad for the Jets fans, and that sucks, man, because I do a show like this. When I first started it, admit it was for me. Like I've always this something I always wanted to do. Well, we're gonna do it. Might as well. Now life is short, lives are long, years. So here I am. My whole outlook is no longer that I'm just doing for myself. Like it is to an extent, because I don't really up in like view hours and get monetized and all that. Like that really isn't. I'm here to have a good time, interact with friends, a place where we can all together hang out, voice our opinions. And so really it's a show all of us Giants now. Like this is a show for all of us, not just for me. And that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining me. I appreciate all your support. You guys have been great. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss any of our content coming up. I'm sure the Jets will keep it interesting, if nothing else. And that being said, everybody have a great day. And, hopefully there are some better times ahead for us in the future. Until next time, which will be on Tuesday at 8 p.m., everybody have a great week. And like always, go Jets.